There are 5 kinds of people who walk into our office for the first time. Most of them have no idea which one they are. But which one you are will probably tell me more about your retirement risks than your portfolio will. Let me walk you through all 5. I'm Nico, and for 16 years, I've helped families think more clearly about retirement. After working with hundreds of families, we started noticing patterns, not in their numbers, in how they thought about their retirement. The same kinds of fears, the same kinds of blind spots, the same kinds of assumptions kept showing up. So we mapped them. We landed on 5 personality types we see most often in the pre-retirement and retirement years. Each one has real strengths, each one has specific blind spots, and knowing which one you are isn't a personality test you just take for fun. It's actually one of the most useful pieces of information we can have walking into a plan. So let me walk you through all 5. As I do, see which one fits you. You might be primarily one, you might be a mix of 2. Almost everybody recognizes themselves in at least one. The first one is the uncertain planner. This is the person who has done all the things you're supposed to do. They've saved, they've contributed to their 401k, they have an IRA, they've got a financial advisor, maybe even 2. By all external measures, they look fine, but internally, they don't know if they're okay. They have no clear picture of whether their numbers actually work for the retirement they want. The uncertain planner's strength is discipline. Their blind spot is clarity. They've done the inputs, but they've never built the actual picture. And because they don't know what's true, they default to working longer than they need to, spending less than they could, and worrying about money even when the numbers say they don't have to. If you've saved well and you still don't sleep easy about retirement, this might be you. The second is the competent but curious. This is the person who's good with money. They follow markets, they know what a basis point is, they built their wealth deliberately, they might be DIY investors. They don't necessarily need help managing their portfolio. What they're looking for isn't basic education, it's a second set of eyes, validation that the plan they built is sound, or, more often, somebody who can find the things that they don't know how to do themselves. The tax strategy they haven't optimized, coordination across pillars they've never had a single advisor look at. The competent but curious strength is engagement. Their blind spot is the assumption that competence in one area, usually investments, is the same as competence across the whole plan. And frankly, it isn't. Retirement is 5 pillars working together. Being great at one of them doesn't tell you whether the other 4 are in place. The third is the worried spouse. This one usually shows up as a couple, but one person does the talking and the other does the worrying. Often, but not always, one spouse has handled the finances and the other has trusted them to do so. As retirement approaches, the spouse who hasn't been involved starts to ask, wait, what happens if something happens to you? Do I know what to do? And that's not a small question, by the way. That's the question. The worried spouse's strength is that they've been asking the question at all, because most people avoid it. Their blind spot is feeling like a passenger in their own retirement. The work in this case isn't just numbers, it's structure, documentation, clarity, making sure both spouses understand the plan, the accounts, the people involved, and the next step if something changes. The fourth is the tax time bomb. This is the saver who has done so well in tax-deferred accounts, 401ks, traditional IRAs, that they're sitting on a future tax problem they don't see. We see people in their early 60s with millions of dollars, 2 million, 3 million in pre-tax accounts. And they look at that number and they feel safe. What they don't see is that those dollars are owed to the IRS in a way that hasn't been calculated to them yet. When required distributions kick in, currently at age 73, those distributions are going to push them into a tax bracket they've never been in. Stack that on top of Social Security, and the effective tax rate can be punishing. The tax time bomb strength is savings. Their blind spot, though, is that the form of those savings matters as much as the amount. $1 million in a Roth is not the same retirement asset as $1 million in a traditional IRA. The work, usually, is a multi-year incremental Roth conversion strategy in the early 60s when income is often lower. And that has to fuse the palm before required distributions hit in their 70s. The fifth is the legacy builder. This is the person or couple, often but not always, further along in the retirement curve. and they're already comfortable. They have enough for themselves. The questions they're asking aren't about whether they'll be okay. They're about what happens after. How do they pass wealth to children and grandchildren effectively? How do they minimize taxes for their heirs? How do they support causes that matter to them most? And how do they make sure that their legacy is structured and not improvised? The legacy builder's strength is perspective. Their blind spot is often that legacy planning gets pushed way off into the corner because it's not urgent. And then suddenly it is. And the structure that should have been built in advance isn't there. Estate planning, trust structures, beneficiary coordination, gifting strategies, these things take time to build well. The legacy builder who waits often pays more in estate taxes and family complexity than they would have if they just started maybe 10 years earlier. So the question is, which one are you? You might be primarily one. You might be primarily one and a secondary one. Honestly, most people recognize themselves in 2 to 3. But there's one that motivates more than others. And the reason this matters isn't because we're trying to put you into a box. It's because each of these types has a specific risk profile and a specific work order. The uncertain planner needs clarity first. The competent but curious needs coordination across all 5 pillars. The worried spouse needs documentation and shared understanding. The tax time bomb needs a multi-year tax strategy and constant maintenance ongoing. The legacy builder needs the state structure built before it's urgent. A plan built for the wrong type is a plan that solves the wrong problem. That's actually the most common form of bad financial planning we see. A competent advisor solving a real problem that isn't your problem. Knowing which type you are isn't the whole plan, but it's where the plan needs to start. We built a short quiz that helps you identify your primary type. You'll find a link to it in the description or right here in this video if you're watching on a device that supports it. It takes about 3 minutes, and at the end, you'll know which of the 5 you are. And if you want to take it further from there, the Retire Forward Readiness Assessment is the next step. That's our 10-page written report that maps out where your plan is solid and where the gaps may exist, calibrated to your primary type. Link's also in the description. What got you here may not get you there. The patterns that built your wealth aren't necessarily the patterns that protect it in retirement. Figuring out which type you are is one of the cheapest, fastest ways to make sure the plan you're building actually fits your situation. I'm Nico. Thanks for watching. Always forward.